Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. Soleux Electronics is pleased to introduce you to some of our innovative products for automation and lighting control. Our hardware is designed for effortless installation, no specialized training required. While the automation industry often demands extensive courses, we've created our automation and lighting control modules for straightforward setup. After just 20 minutes of this video, you'll be able to confidently install and configure a dimming module with ease. Let's take a closer look at a product that's a favorite among our customers, a DC PWM dimming module with 4 output channels and 16 dry contact inputs. It's incredibly easy to use and offers amazing control. Each of the 4 outputs can function as either a PWM dimming output or a 0-10 volts control, providing versatility for your needs. Additionally, the module is equipped with a built-in web server that offers a user-friendly interface, allowing you to control all internal functions and configurations with ease. As you can see in the top left corner, we have a demo unit for this video. In the bottom left corner, there is an Android tablet, running an RTI demo program configured to control the demo module. The Soleux dimming module also comes with a built-in set of TCP commands, enabling seamless control by any third-party control system. The list with all TCP commands is available on our website, or we can email it to you. In this video presentation, we will show and explain the main features of this dimming module, highlighting the ease and speed of its configuration. The top menu of the web page provides easy and quick access to all functions. The dashboard page displays the status of the 4 outputs, featuring up and down controls for each output as well as virtual access to the inputs. Each of the virtual inputs acts as a virtual clone of the physical input, triggering the same action. The I/O configuration webpage provides access to the inputs and outputs mapping table in a matrix format. By clicking on each cell, you can toggle between input actions and assign specific I/O functions. Below the I/O mapping table, on the left side, there is another table for labeling the inputs, as well as for disabling the inputs that are not in use. On the right side, beneath the I/O mapping table, you will find the configuration and labels for the dimming outputs. As clearly shown, each output can have its own values for step size for up and down dimming, minimum duty, the lowest value of light when that output is turned off, maximum duty, the highest value of light when that output is turned on. Step time, directly related to the step size, this represents the time required to execute one step size. Within the automation page in the top menu, users can configure TCP commands that are sent to other Soleux dimming modules when designated inputs are triggered. Follow these steps to set up this function. Step 1. Select the module's input that will trigger the action. Step 2. Enter the IP address of the module where the TCP command will be sent. Step 3. Enter the port value of the destination dimming module. Step 4. Input a valid TCP command found on the TCP commands list. Step 5. Click Save to store the values. Make sure that, on the destination module, the Allow TCP Control From section includes the IP address of the sender module, or that the entire TCP control section on the destination module is disabled. Assigning an input to send TCP commands to another dimming module does not interfere with any other functions assigned to that input on the local module. Sending the TCP commands will take effect after the internal actions assigned to that input have been executed. The sender module does not expect any feedback from the destination module, therefore, commands can be sent to the destination module using either the regular communication port or the port designated for light commands, which is the regular port +1. The next page in the menu is Scenarios. In this section, you can create up to 16 scenarios for this single module. Each scenario is assigned to one of the inputs and can be triggered by either the physical or virtual inputs. If a scenario is enabled for input X, it will override the function of input X specified in the I/O mapping table. A scenario can simultaneously control one or more outputs. The following page in the menu is Schedule. On this page, you can create two types of schedule functions for each of the four outputs: one-time schedule and recurring schedule actions. You can create multiple schedule functions for each output, no matter if they are one-time or recurring schedule functions. The SLX-Dimming module features a built-in real-time clock and an internal battery to maintain accurate time. For the one-time schedule function, select the date and time, define the type of action, on, off, or PWM%, and click the plus Add New Rule button to save your settings. For the recurring schedule actions, select the hour, the action, on, off, or PWM%, and the frequency of the action. Weekly, select the days of the week. Monthly, select the day of the month. Yearly, select the day of the month and the month. Then, click the plus Add New Rule button to save your settings. On the Settings page of the menu, you will find all the module settings for communication and configuration. On the top left side, there are sections for Module Name, Username and Password, Save Config and Load Existing Config. On the top right side, you'll find the section for the module's date and time, time zones, and time synchronization interval. Lower on that page, there is a section for Network Settings. You can select between static and dynamic IP allocation and be sure to click the Save button. When using static IP allocation, remember to manually input the IP address, netmask, and default gateway values. The next section on the Settings page is Allow TCP Control From, which filters the devices allowed to send TCP commands to the dimming module. If the Disable checkbox is checked, the dimming module will accept commands from any device. If the Disable checkbox is unchecked, only devices with the specified IP address or MAC address listed below the TCP port field will be permitted to send commands to the dimming module. If valid TCP commands are sent to the port number specified in the TCP port field, the SLX-Dimming module will broadcast a response specific to the command sent. If an incorrect command is sent, an error message will be returned. If commands are sent to the TCP port value +1, the SLX-Dimming module will execute the command without sending any feedback. We call those commands light commands, and they are specified on the available TCP commands list. To manually send commands directly to the dimming module, you can use PWM software. Launch the software and select Raw Connection. Input the module's IP address and port number, and click Connect. Once the connection is established, you can manually send commands and receive feedback. Feedback is also received and displayed, and a command is sent from a third-party control system or the web page. Remember to ensure your computer's IP address is added to the Allow TCP Connection section or disable the IP filter entirely. At the bottom of the page, there is a Reboot button that will restart the internal web server without affecting the inputs or outputs. The System page at the top displays the module's internal information, including LAN MAC address, wireless MAC address, if the Wi-Fi module is included as an option, module serial number, CPU temperature, and module uptime. The next section on the System page displays the internal firmware version along with its release date. To the right of this section, there is a button for initiating a manual firmware upgrade. The final section of the system page is dedicated to the outputs and system logs. All outputs changes are registered in the module's system logs. Now that we have concluded the web menu presentation, we would like to focus on module's functionality. First, let's explain the module's front side buttons and LED lights. On the left side, you'll find the HWR and SWR buttons, which stand for hardware restart and software restart. The hardware restart button will power cycle the module's internal web server when pressed for 3 to 5 seconds. This action does not affect the module's outputs. The software restart button has two functionalities. A short press of 3 to 5 seconds will perform a software reboot of the module's web server. A long press of 13 to 15 seconds will trigger a factory reset of the module's web server. After a factory reset, the module's internal IP address will be reset to 10.10.10.10, and the default access credentials will be admin for both the username and password. In the top center of the front panel of the module, there are 4 white LEDs directly connected to the module's outputs. Below the output LEDs, there are 16 push buttons that replicate the module's physical and virtual inputs. Each button performs the same action as defined in the I/O mapping table or the scenarios. Both the LED outputs and input push buttons are clearly labeled for easy identification. On the right side, there are 5 LEDs, each representing a different function. The top left green LED, labeled Power, indicates whether the dimming module is powered on. The top right LED, labeled System, blinks to signify that the module's internal system is operating optimally. The middle LED indicates the module's Wi-Fi capabilities. If this LED is off, the dimming module is not equipped with Wi-Fi. When it is on, the module has Wi-Fi capabilities but is not connected to any network. If the blue LED is blinking, it means the dimming module is connected to a Wi-Fi network. The bottom LEDs are labeled Ethernet Activity and Ethernet Link, which indicate the status of the module's LAN connection. All connectors for wiring the dimming module are located on the top and bottom sides of the unit. Top middle connector. This is the power-in connector for the power supply. The module supports an input voltage ranging from 10 to 24 volts, depending on the designated module outputs. Ensure that the light bulbs used are compatible with the power supply in use. On the left side of the power-in connector, you will find outputs 1 and 2, while outputs 3 and 4 are located on the right side. As illustrated in the top left image of this presentation, lights are connected to the VCC and PWM pins of each output. For a 0 to 10 volts control function, use the PWM and GND pins along with a 10 volts power supply unit to power the dimming module. Each output can handle up to 4 amps, but the total current for the entire module must not exceed 12 amps. Opposite the outputs are the module's connectors for LAN communication and the connectors for the 16 inputs. For LAN communication, use a network cable with an RJ45 connector to connect the SLX-Dimming Module to an existing network. When the network cable is connected and the connection is functional, the 2 LEDs incorporated into the module's LAN connector, as well as the LEDs on the module's front, will illuminate and begin blinking. If these LEDs are not illuminated, please check the network cable, the RJ45 connector, or your network settings. All 16 inputs are designed to function as dry contacts. This means they are triggered by establishing a short circuit between the input pin and any of the GND pins available on the input connector side. For this demonstration, we are using a 12-volt power supply and 4 12-volt ceiling light spots. The ceiling spots are manufactured by 4 different brands to highlight that the dimming curve depends more on the spotlight than on the dimming unit. From the dimming module's I/O configuration webpage, we configure inputs 3 and 4 to dim all 4 outputs up and down. We also set identical values for step size and step time for all 4 outputs. Applying these settings takes only a few seconds, as the system saves changes in real time without requiring a save action. By pressing the buttons for inputs 3 and 4, we can clearly observe the differences between the 4 spotlights. In the next demonstration, we will replace the 12-volt ceiling spots with a 24-volt RGBW LED strip light. We will connect the outputs in the following optimal order: red to output 1, green to output 2, blue to output 3, white to output 4. Additionally, we will rename each output for better identification in the module's internal settings. From a third-party control system, you can manage the output levels by either sending commands directly to the outputs or by creating a scenario within the SLX-DIM-L module and sending a command to trigger that scenario. Using the Scenarios feature, you can create up to 16 different colors by activating all the scenarios and adjusting the levels of each of the 4 outputs according to the RGB color definition scale, or control each primary light one by one. Switching back to the spotlights, we'd like to explain a common and practical configuration for using a wall switch with 4 buttons. Button 1, assigned to input 1, triggers all lights on. Button 2, assigned to input 2, triggers all lights off. Button 3, assigned to input 3, triggers a 15% scenario for all lights. Button 4, assigned to input 4, triggers a 7% scenario for all lights. This configuration can be set up in less than a minute. The SLX-DIM-L module is designed for effortless configuration. It's easy to set up, and making adjustments later is just as straightforward. Once the configuration is set up, it can also be triggered from any other control system by simply sending commands to activate inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4. As we test the scenarios, please note the Android tablet in the bottom left corner of the screen, running the RTI application. It displays the output levels almost instantly. You can also perform the same test using the module's front buttons or the switch buttons connected to the physical inputs. All these actions will trigger the same scenarios. To disable the scenario and revert the input to the functionality assigned in the I/O mapping table, simply go to the Scenarios page, enable the Scenario section, and uncheck the Enable box. After that, click the Save button, and the input will return to its functions as assigned in the I/O mapping table. Soleux equipment comes with a 5-year warranty and ongoing technical support for all our clients. Don't hesitate to contact us with any questions you may have, technical or commercial. We hope you found this explanation of the Soleux module's features helpful. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos featuring more Soleux equipment.